Okay, Joel, thank you so much for being here and being a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jesse. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
No problem, no problem. We've been excited to have you on and excited to dive in so the guests can get to know you a little bit and then also learn from you a little bit. So let's start off. What first got you into the recruiting space and what's made you want to stay for so long?
Well, let me introduce myself a little. My name is Joel Ogle. I work with All Search Recruiting. We're based out of Pennsylvania, but we have a couple offices across the U.S. And the company itself is more of a generalist organization, but I've always done a little bit more specific into the real estate and the facilities realm. But how I got into recruiting, honestly, man, I worked in politics for a couple years. So I worked within the Republican Party. Um, like politics goes, your boss loses, you lose. So I was out of a job and I fell into temp recruiting. So I did a couple years in temp recruiting and learned and kind of developed the business and then realized, holy crap, there's money in this. I didn't know people paid to find people like this. So that's how I got into the space. It's yeah, it's
Yeah.
long. That's a very short-winded story for how it ended up being a recruiter now. For oh my gosh, I think 11 to 12 years I've been doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that the audience also knows, I appreciate the kind of the backstory so people can know who you are, but what is your typical candidate or who's your typical candidate and who's your typical client?
So typically, again, I deal mostly within like the real estate, the property management, the facilities type of world. At All Search, though, I've kind of gotten the nickname of Dennis Rodman. If you know Dennis Rodman, he had the nickname of the Worm. So whatever needed to be done was done, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what I am. I mean, I've worked on any type of position you can think of. I mean, I've had a placement with a dental hygienist once in my career, and I've had COO and CEO positions that I've filled in my career. So it
Mhm.
really has always been more what's the client's looking for. But I've migrated in the last 5 years into more of the real estate realm, the facilities, and a lot of property management clients.
Mhm. Okay. Perfect. And let's dive into some things that you're seeing in the market right now, right? We don't expect you to know everything that's going on, but with most of our listeners are executive level clients or candidates, right? And I'm curious to know what is, the most common one or two mistakes you're seeing people make when they're in that job search.
So a typical mistake, I think number one is why are you looking? And a lot of executives are usually looking because they may not be happy. Their company could be in transition. You're seeing a lot of that right now where companies, especially as private equity and private money continues to gobble up organizations, you're seeing a lot of executives start to ask themselves, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? Historically, executives are probably 45 years or older, is what I've
Mhm.
always found. So when they start to ask themselves if they're 50, 55, I've got probably 10, maybe 15 more years in me. What do I want to do? And that's really the first question. What do you want to do? And then once you figure out what is it you want to do, where am I in the marketplace? And what's the marketplace look like for what I want to do? And
Mhm.
that's really the biggest obstacle anybody has. I mean, you can go apply, you can go put your resume out there to 500 different places and hear back from probably four of them, just
Mhm.
because of the robots are taking on how a lot of the resume grabs. But
Mhm.
ultimately, people still hire people. That's by far the biggest thing. People still hire people. And
Mhm.
if you believe that you fit a segment of whatever industry you're in, could be real estate, could be food manufacturing, could be recycling steel, like who knows what it is. You have to define your parameters, but ultimately that you have to say, okay, within the market I'm in, is the market local for me? Am I a multi-state candidate? Am I a United States-based candidate where I say I'll go live wherever? So it opens up the market. But I think a lot of people have to ask themselves first, what is it I want? Where am I going to go? And then eventually, what's the market hold for me? And that's really where the exploration comes. And a lot of executives have to be willing to take necessary steps to really put themselves out there. Putting yourself out there is not fun. I mean, everybody's been a job search. When I basically was eliminated from politics because my boss lost, and I could have found another job, but I decided I want to make money in my life and join business. So
Mhm.
putting yourself in a situation you've never been put in. It's difficult. So I think that's key. Understand who you are, what's it you're after, and then what's the market look like. And that's kind of how I've always expressed to candidates. That's how you need to process it.
Yeah. And nobody likes being uncomfortable. Right?
No, and looking for a job is awful, right? I mean, it's consistent rejection, and recruiting is no different. I mean, if you find success, especially in the type of recruitment I do, you find it's 4 times a month, right? If we make 4 placements a month, we're making good money, we're making good success. I mean, I might talk to 500 people a
Right.
month. You think about the percentages within recruiting are not great. They're really bad, actually. And the it kind of goes back to any executive. Whenever you have the chance to talk to somebody, talk to them, because you just don't know. You have no understanding. Can that person help you? But no different than you and I, Jesse, right? I mean, you had reached out, and I saw a couple podcasts, and I was like, I'll talk to you, right? I mean, what's the
Right.
worst thing that happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. That's the worst thing that happens. So
Yeah.
I think whenever you are in a position to take 5 minutes, meet somebody, that somebody could lead you to somebody else, which is how you find your job.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a huge thing too, to kind of like add on to that, what I'm seeing as well is for those the people that are listening that aren't actually looking right now, have those conversations now, not thinking you're going to leave, but
Mm-hmm.
just knowing what goes around comes around. If you do good, you help other people out. These opportunities just come. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone that said, "Hey, I've over the last 40 years of my career, I've found a position because I know somebody, right?"
Nice.
And then they get tapped out because they stop talking to people. They don't have the network, they've reached a certain level. But yeah, again, kind of going off that subject, but towards what you said as well, nobody wants to fail. There's a quote that comes to my mind that I love. It's Alex Hermosi. I don't know if you know him. He's a big entrepreneur guy, huge in business.
Yes, he owns a pickleball team, I believe. But no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah. Maybe he does. I mean, he's a big fitness guy, and he talks about how fear is like an ocean. It's a mile long and it looks deep, but it's actually an inch deep, right? And once you start
Mhm.
walking in it, you realize you're fine, right? And so
Yep.
I think that's a good thing for people to know. So I love that advice, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit on you and relate it a little bit. So, what is a common misconception you see executives or any candidate make when it comes to working with recruiters?
So the biggest is that we're resume pushers. Have you ever heard that term?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, it's a resume pusher. It's a guy who's going to push my resume. If you find the correct recruiter that's within your discipline of what you're after, they have the ability to go out and cold call and look on your behalf. And that's how I make 50% of my money.
Mhm.
Where I have an individual, either I've reached out to them or they reach out to me. It's usually me reach out to them, to be honest with you. So I'll be active. I'll reach out, cold call them. Saw your profile. Actively looking for a COO position up in Connecticut. You could fit it, you may not fit it. But if you don't make the reach out originally, then that's when you become a resume pusher, right? You put an ad up on Indeed. The more we go down the AI path, the more we separate ourselves from the real conversations that recruiters have to have. I mean, you
Mhm.
think about one thing I always tell my clients is listen, if you're going to pay me 20,000, 30,000, 40, 50,000, whatever the number is, you're paying for a specific person, right? That's what recruiting is. You can put
Mhm.
an ad up and find it yourself. You can go on ZipRecruiter. You can find those
Mhm.
resumes yourself and you can call them yourself. It's pretty easy. That's really not that hard to do. But
Yeah.
ultimately, if you have the right person that kind of understands your profile and they're willing to ask the tough questions, a lot of recruiters are afraid to just blatantly say, listen, what is it you want? Right? It's a simple question. And when somebody says, well, I've never been asked that, how have you never been asked that if you're looking for a job? Right? Like, what is it you want?
Right.
Why? I had a recruiter reach out to me a week ago and wanted to know if I would, be interested in talking to them about working for them. And I was like, well, it's money. What kind of money you offer? Just get them, some sort of response. And they
Right.
automatically, I don't want to talk about money. Well, if you don't want to talk about money, most people don't work for free anymore, would be my assumption. So
Yes.
you if you have the correct recruiter that is willing and able to have real conversations with you and then on your behalf, that's where the best recruiters are. And that's, within my company, I've been the top producer the 9 years. Well, technically, it's almost 9.5 now. Um, and the way I've done it is consistently having the real conversations with the candidate and the client. And then if you can help them, that's great. If you can't help them, tell them. If you have a recruiter that says, I've got 5 opportunities, but I'm not going to tell you what they are until you talk to me, that's waste your time. And so the
Yeah.
best recruiters are not afraid of another recruiter stealing their business. And they're not afraid to tell you, hey, listen, base salary is 110, base salary is 21, 205. I cannot get the base higher than that. So is that okay with you? And if they say, listen, I'm making 220, probably not a fit for me, but let's talk anyways, right? And that's been the biggest obstacle with the introduction of this AI, and the further recruiters get away from having real conversations is that they're not honest with the candidates themselves. When somebody calls you, put it all on the table. It's very similar. I don't know if you listened to Eminem, but the movie 8 Mile, where
Hmm.
his buddy tells him, "Hey, listen, if you lay out all your stuff in front of them, they have nothing to come at you with." That's how I recruit. I tell you
Yeah.
everything about the position that I know that you have to know. And then from there, we can have a real conversation about what is it you want. That's the goal. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's a breath of fresh air for the clients or for the candidates, but also I'm sure it saves you a ton of time, right? Being more transparent is going to get you on the phone with people that are actually willing to take a role based off of the information. So
It does.
yeah,
It does. I mean, you think about, we can sit there and talk for 45 minutes and you can hang the phone up and go, what did we talk about? Or in 5 minutes, you can know everything you need to know. And then you can be like, I can talk to that guy again. Right. Like that's the
yeah,
goal. It's, you know, within recruiting, it's about touches. You touched me when you reached out to me. I'm touching you now as we're talking, right? It's a touch. You'll probably remember me. I'll probably remember you. But there's probably a recruiter that had reached out to you in the past that if they called you right now, you're like, I don't remember ever talking to you because
hmm,
they were generic. And the biggest things, and I see this in the company I work for, and it's always been this way. Any recruiting entity out there, when you're a generic recruiter and you're not willing to push and have real conversations, man, it's tough to make money as a recruiter, but it's ultimately tough to make placements, and that's how we make money.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. Um, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit again on you with executives or candidates in general looking to, well, I guess really candidates looking to make a shift in their career, starting the job search. What's one piece of advice you would give them?
So go back to the idea, what is it you want?
Hmm.
So I'll give an example of a placement I had 2 months ago. Um, the gentleman came from the commercial roofing business. Okay. Again, this goes back to the idea, I'm Dennis Rodman. Sometimes I take these positions that nobody else really ever wants to touch, but
Hmm.
kind of fit, not a huge company that he was working for. And he wanted to transition more into a real estate property management. So that's kind of how he ended up on my desk. That's how we were chatting. And I said, I might have a fit for a higher end kind of property manager position. But what it takes is that you have to redo the resume. You have to offer yourself as maybe taking a little bit of a pay cut with the ultimate goal of being happier in your life and not, killing yourself for your compensation. And
Hmm.
just a little bit of tweaking on the resume, nothing crazy, putting some figures in, putting some metrics into the resume, and allowing him to then get in front of somebody. And ultimately it was because he had reached out to me and he said, "This is what I want to do. Do you think it's feasible?" And we had a real conversation. And I was like, "Yeah, I think you got the personality, you're problem solver, you're organized, and you get shit done, right? Like those are the
Hmm.
things that type of a business is looking for." So if you want to make a change and you say, listen, I want to transition from, the real estate business and I want to go into the manufacturing business. I want to go into the production business or vice versa. It's not so much the actual job titles, the actual work you were doing, it's the skill set. And if you can find the correct recruiter that can understand that and see it, they can help, you know, open the doors. They can put you in specific situations that can benefit you. Because remember, if you deal with the right recruiters, it only benefits the recruiter to help you, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
ultimately how most of them make their money. They place candidates, the clients pay them. Simple equation. So if you are an executive and you say, listen, I'm currently a CFO of a food manufacturing facility and I want to get into a different type of business, pretty easy to transition at the CFO level. Sometimes a COO or CEO has a pretty easy transition as well. But when you get into the VPs, you get into the AVPs, you get into directors, that's where you'll start to see people will say, okay, no, you're more disciplined in this industry versus this industry. So it's more about making sure that you open the door correctly. And opening the door is picking the phone up, harassing sometimes, right? You're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to call this person 4 times because that's the job I want right there. And
Mhm.
making them say no, right? I mean, this is, you have to remember you're selling yourself when you're applying for a job. When you're applying, you're interviewing, you have conversations, you're selling yourself. And the more opportunities you have to put yourself in front of people, that's how you're going to find success.
Yeah. I like what you said there about kind of the transition where we're talking about transitioning careers, different industries, different positions, right? And it's kind of all ties back into being uncomfortable, right? You have to be willing to put yourself out there, make the calls. I love somewhere, I don't know, it's LinkedIn or wherever it was, but just treating it your job search like a job, right?
I
Be active, do the
absolutely.
calls. I don't know if is that your post? Did I just read your post? Did you talk
It,
about that
it,
or?
it may have been. I've always viewed it. So when I go back years, I mean, when I had to get out of politics, it was I sat down and I had never looked for a job like that. I was right out of college when I went into politics. So I
Mhm.
was like, how do you find a job? I'm like, well, I'm organized and I'm savvy. So I created a spreadsheet. I put every position I applied to, every one. And then I put every position that I saw and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I think I can do that. How do I find the person? So I would pull up the website and I said, okay, this guy is the director of that position. I'm just going to call him, right? You get him
Mhm.
on the phone, you say, I applied to your job. You want to talk to me? Most of the time they're like, how'd you get my phone number? Right. But
Yeah.
you're on the phone with them, right? You're trying to create some sort of connection with somebody from pure scratch because that's what recruiters do.
Mhm.
And that's what I did with the temp agency I worked for 2 years. I mean, that was a rough job, but I learned a tremendous amount within 2 years. I mean, just a tremendous amount, just in business and people and psychology and how people react to you. But
Mhm.
if you are willing to stay organized and you say, I'm going to treat it like a job, so I'm going to wake up, I'm going to dress myself, I'm going to bathe myself, I'm going to make my bed, and at 9 o'clock, when I know HR people, the VPs and the directors are sitting at their desk, is I'm going to have 4 calls ready to go because this is one thing I do in my day. Every day, somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock, I have 2 or 3 prospects. I'm just going to call them and
Mhm.
start a conversation. Just say, introduce myself. I found an old resume of yours. I found a new resume of yours. I saw your LinkedIn profile. I just want to talk to you. This is what I do. So,
Mhm.
if you are looking for a position, you have to stay organized and treat it like you would. If you're an executive, you should treat it like an executive position. Like you should say, okay, here's the top 7 positions. I know there's 15 out there, but here's the top 7. Who are the 7 gatekeepers of these 7 positions? And then you go through and you research. You go through the websites. Maybe you find a recruiter that could be within that discipline, and you say, listen, I found job X in Connecticut. I see that's the type of stuff you recruit on. Do you know these people? Have you ever met them?
Mhm.
The people that get those, if you have that type of a drive, man, you're going to find a job. Nobody's going to stop you. But the ones that are passively sending resumes out into Never Never Land, which is called Indeed, it's going to take you 8 months. And then now you have a resume that shows you haven't been employed for 8 months. So What
Right.
do
Then you got the
HR people
gap you have to explain.
what
Yeah.
do HR people do, right? HR people go, "Oh my God, he must have got fired and nobody wants him."
Hmm.
So, which isn't true, right? It's because you haven't viewed it as I want to. This is a job that I have to do to get to the job, and
Hmm.
so it's kind of like a weird hiring's a weird thing that people do with people. It's
Hmm.
again, I will always go back to people hire people. Machines don't hire people. No matter how many times we have to fill out applications online, it's still somebody's looking at that and making an actual idea of okay, I like this, I don't like this. Why do I like this? Why don't I like? So the biggest thing is don't put yourself in a position. You know, act like it's a job, deliver just like you would at work, and put yourself out there.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it. And I'd love for the listeners that are going to be listening to know what's the best way to connect with you. If they're a potential candidate, potential client, they loved what you've said and they just would love to speak with you more.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. You can check me on LinkedIn, Joel Ogle, Ogle is the last name. My email is joel@allsearchinc.com. And then our website is www.allsearchinc.com. We're actually in the middle of building just a real estate specific website as our practice is growing. And I've had to hire a couple of recruiters that will work underneath me. But one thing, Jesse, before we jump off, I
Hmm.
one thing at All Search that I've developed in the last 2 years, it's kind of a simple acronym, and it's ROPE, ROPE, and ROPE is 4 letters, right? It's 4 words. The words are reality, opportunity, preparedness, and emotion. So reality, opportunity, preparedness, and emotion. And the reason we've kind of built this acronym, right? Everybody has their acronyms, the government has them. But
Hmm.
ours is pretty simple. I mean, when I talk about reality, I talk about what's your reality if you're a candidate, the reality of your world. Why is it you're looking? Why are you unhappy? Were you forced out of the job? Did your company, dissolve? When it comes to your reality of your life, right? Are you divorced? Are you married, happy? Do you have kids? What's your schedule like? What's your reality? So it's important from a recruiting aspect that we learn your reality, that we
Hmm.
learn why is it you're looking? What's your motivations? Why are you putting yourself in this situation to where you have to go through one of it's not demeaning to look for a position for a new job, but sometimes it feels that way. So,
Hmm.
what's your reality? The second is the opportunity. What opportunity is it that we're looking to find? Doesn't matter if you are a low level maintenance person or if you're the CFO or if you're a CEO. What is it you want to find? What type of opportunity are we looking to find you? So, again, reality, opportunity. The third one's preparedness. Are you prepared for this? Are you really, really ready to go through the process of being vetted, putting yourself out there, and being uncomfortable? Because you're constantly uncomfortable. I don't care what you
Yeah.
say, you're constantly uncomfortable because when you have to talk to a stranger and that stranger says, "Tell me why you're not working," and you have to immediately in your mind hope that what you're saying they like. You don't know what they like. And then when you don't hear from them for 2 weeks, where's your mind go? Negative. Automatically, your mind goes negative. So,
Hmm.
are you prepared for what you're about to go through? So, your reality, your opportunity that you're looking for, your preparedness. But number 4 is the E, the emotion. This is a very emotional thing you do. Even though you don't realize it, it's very emotional. There's ups and downs, most of the time downs. I go back to recruiting itself is a negative business. Um, people come and go out of recruiting probably as much as they come and go out of the service industry. Like it is just a negative thing that happens in this business. There's more rejection than there will ever be success. But as a candidate, you have to put yourself in a mindset that it's a business. And if you're in a business mode, you act like it's a business. Go back to the idea that you're looking for a job, so you're going to act like it is a job. That's how you can find success, and you can find it quickly when you're looking for a job. So again, the acronym is ROPE, ROPE, reality, opportunity, preparedness, and emotion. So just something I wanted to throw out there, Jesse. It's something that we've had for the last couple of years, and we love it. We like doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm excited for candidates to kind of keep that in mind and make sure they have the right mindset going into a job search. And I appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you on again, Joel. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.